Welcome back to Great Minds Think Alike. I'm Gabby.
I'm Nick. So everybody, they really want to get the best deal, right? When you're doing things, whether it's in your personal life or business, getting the best deal is important, especially in this economy where everything is so expensive, prices are rising, people are very cost sensitive. So we just want to say that that's important to get the best deal, but being cheap can be super expensive.
And let's not forget about the value.
Yeah, you need to look at the value of things, not just the price, because you could be paying a little more for something, but be getting a better deal because of the value of it.
And the long-term benefits.
Exactly.
All right, let's dive in.
Let's dive into our business segment. I mean, the overall theme here is being cheap is expensive.
Yep. When there's upfront costs that are cheaper, you have to make sure that you're looking at things like the value, the long-term benefits. Like, how is this going to affect your time?
Exactly, because a lot of times people think that they're saving money because something is cheaper, aka the price is lower, but a lot of times in the long run, it could come back and cost a lot more money.
And time is money. Let's not forget that.
When it comes to your business, a lot of times you need to spend money to make money, no matter what business you're in, and being cheap and living in a mental state of scarcity can hold you back from that.
100%. You want to make sure that you're spending your money wisely. And that brings me into what I want to bring up in our business segment, which is being cheap versus being frugal. Cheap people, they are solely focused on the lowest amount of money. They're not focused on the time, the long-term benefits, the value of the product that they're buying. Frugal people focus on spending their money wisely, spending their time wisely, and the value of the product and how this is going to benefit their life.
Exactly. So we're not out here saying don't be cheap, spend money recklessly, go to the most expensive coach, do the most expensive thing. We're saying be smart about it, which goes into frugal, right? Some coaches may be expensive, but they might suck, right? Some things, I also want to talk about education with Always Be Learning. You know, there's some classes out there and some educational seminars that cost a lot of money. We want you to identify which one of these has the right value, how it's going to make money long term, and hire the right coaches, take the right education classes, spend money to invest in yourself, because you're going to get a much larger return than whatever little bit of money you're putting out up front. And you're right, cheap people are like lowest cost. That's not everything.
That's all they care about.
And they'll get burnt in the long run with that.
Right, because honestly, being frugal, now that I think about it, it goes into our values of this podcast. Like, spending your money wisely, making sure it saves you time. Like, dishwasher, for example, like my house before our current apartment, I didn't have a dishwasher, and I'm like, I don't care if an apartment with a dishwasher is more expensive. It saves me so much time.
Buys our time back.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, they always say the line, scared money don't make no money. It's true. You have to spend money to make money, but that doesn't mean just, no scared money, spend it all. You want to make sure you're allocating money to the right things. You can't be cheap. You have to spend the money that's required to get the right value, the right coaching, the right education, the right guidance.
Yeah.
And I kind of move on too with hosting events and sponsoring things.
Yeah.
Like your kids' sporting events, they may need a sponsor for something, and you may say, oh my God, I don't want to spend a couple $1,000s to sponsor their jerseys. But guess what? The other parents on the team might appreciate that. Your brand is in front of them every time their kid plays, and they may call you for that service that you provide, right? Then what community events?
And the time too, like the time and effort. You may know, this is going to be a lot of time. This is a huge time commitment. PTA meetings. You build relationships this way, and thus, like you said, sponsoring events like that, thus bringing you more business. You have to spend money to make money in almost all cases.
And you need to give to receive.
Yep.
So sometimes community events, there might not be a tangible benefit to you right there and then. Like it's not on the balance sheet if I sponsor this event, but you got to give to receive.
Yep.
And that is a proven theory long term, that if you give to your community, if you sponsor things, if you host night events like client appreciation, business and partner appreciation, the money will come back to you if you're doing the right thing.
And that's another thing with being cheap versus frugal. Cheap people are not going to be generous with their time, money, and effort. And frugal people will be. They'll see the long-term value. And that is the whole thing about frugal people. Spending money wisely, spending time wisely, long-term value and benefits.
You help people and they will help you.
Yeah.
You put money out to sponsor things, to take your team out for dinner, to take your business partners, clients out, hosting events for education on your dime. It will will come back to you, and you can't be afraid to spend that money because there's so much value in giving value.
Yeah.
You know, the more value you give, the more value you get.
100%.
So the last thing I have on here as well is hiring good help. So let's say you're in a position where you have a team and you're hiring people. Cheap employees will give you cheap work. You know, you'll get bad work. You'll get bad quality.
Bad attitudes.
Bad attitudes, yup, because they're not making enough. So if you want to cheap out on your staff, it's going to show. Cheap suppliers, say you're in a construction business of some sort, will give you flimsy, cheap material, and then your work won't be as good. So
we're going to bring this up again in our real estate
I know,
segment.
we'll get to that. But just the point here is spending the money on the right people will help your business.
Yep, 100%. And coming from like a recruiting standpoint too, I saw it. I saw it in my past life, which was like a year ago, not even, but I saw just people who had bad attitudes because they weren't getting paid enough. I saw people who were also motivated by a high-paying job too.
Yep. So the cheapest is not the best value. You can't be so focused on the price. You have to look at the other aspects of the cost.
All right. Let's move on to our lifestyle segment.
Yeah, that was heavy, so let's lighten it up a bit. Being cheap with your personal purchases can be expensive in the long term, right? So I want to talk with the shoe example. You know, they say the example, they're like, you can get the expensive shoes that are $100 or the cheap shoes for $30. The expensive shoes may last you 3 years, and the cheap shoes may last you 3 months. If you buy the cheap ones, you keep after buying new ones, over a long period of time, you'll spend more continuously purchasing the cheap stuff rather than buying the more expensive shoes that last longer. I saw this in my life with a pair of the Yeezys that I have. They were more expensive. They were a couple $100, but I bought those 5 years ago. And Gab, you could attest to this. You're probably sick of them by now. But I wear them to the gym. I wear them out. I wear them when we're going to dinners and stuff. I wear them
work and play shoes for
five
real.
times a week. I wear them 5 years now, and they are in perfect shape. So yeah, I spent a little more money up front, but I haven't had to buy new shoes in years for that.
Yeah. If you know, you know with the website DHgate, but I've been a victim to like just continuously buying the same pair of sunglasses
Your glasses.
again. Yeah, and again in my past life when I was like getting drunk every weekend, we'd be going on boats and whatever, I would lose these sunglasses, and that was like my reasoning and justification as to buying the same glasses again. Oh, I don't want to spend money on expensive pairs of sunglasses because I just lose them. First of all, be a little bit more responsible, Mini Gab.
Well, that's the first thing.
Yeah, second of all, then they also tarnish. If I managed to save a pair of these sunglasses, they would tarnish. And then I'm like, what the hell? I might as well just buy the Ray-Bans Versace glasses that I want, because at the end of the day, like, you're going to have to keep rebuying these sunglasses, and for what? And with the amount of money that you put into repurchasing and whatnot, you could have just up front got the nice pair and been done with it. Yeah,
because there's also psychology. First of all, if you spent the money up front, you may be more careful with them and not lose them.
Yeah.
Second of all, they keep fading and whatnot. You keep buying them, another $50, $60, $70, whatever these fake pair cost. It's going to add up to the real pair anyway that would have lasted you years.
Yeah. And another thing with lifestyle is your health. Like, let's not cheap out on our health, people. Like, if you're skipping regular checkups with your doctor's appointments, your dentist appointments, you're going to have undiagnosed issues and painful and expensive problems later on.
Yeah, it's way more costly to have issues from neglect than it is to go to the doctors. And I also want to bring on getting cheap food. Cheap food is unhealthy, like fast foods, all your McDonald's
causes
and stuff.
Health problems too in the long term.
If you're always being cheap with the food you're buying and always going to the cheapest option, you're going to have some serious health problems, and that is so expensive long terms with doctor's visits, hospital visits, pills you might have to be on, medicines. It can come back to bite you in the ass.
And it is so ridiculous because this world that we live in, like a salad is $14 with or without chicken. It depends where you go at this point. And like a McChicken or at McDonald's is like $5 now. But it matters in the long term.
Yeah, I know we're always about saving money, doing the right things, but when it comes to your health, paying a little more for the healthier food will save you money in the long term because you can't put a price on your health.
I just wish that they would be a little bit more like enticing, but they want us sick, and that's another conversation.
They say, when you're unhealthy, you have one dream. When you're healthy, you have many. Right? So you'll know that when you get sick, all you want to do is get better and be healthy. When you're healthy, that's when there's other opportunities. So nothing else we talk about here can even happen if your health is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So I think, this also goes into, say, travel. So we're going to Vegas in a few weeks. We just booked a trip. And it's the same thing with travel. So like when you get cheap flights, there's always delays. You get what airline is
Spirit.
You get the worst airlines.
Spirit.
And Gab, when we're looking at it, when you're picking the flights, the cheapest ones on top, what do they always have?
Layovers.
The layovers. You may say, "Oh,
And
this flight's $100."
those seats are always so
They're
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. It takes your time because there's a layover in another state. Get the flight that's a little more expensive. You get there on time and there's no layovers. Same with the hotels. I'm going to use a pretty dramatic example, but if you get the cheapest hotel you can find, it may be unsanitary. There may be bed bugs, and then you have to throw out all the clothes that you brought on the trip. So yeah, you may have saved $100 a night on the cheaper hotel, but now you just lost all the clothes and stuff that you brought there because you got to throw them out.
Yeah,
and the headache.
I literally just saw a video of Alex Earl like on a 5-hour flight, and she's sitting in first class, and she almost didn't have her chair reclining, and she was like, I was about to freak out. Like, I want to have those problems.
So another one is with a car. You know, I bring this example because I went through it in my life. If you need a new car, you want to get the cheapest car, it can cost you more in the long run. Because let's say you have an option between a car that's a little more money and then a cheaper older one. And you get the older one. Now you just spent a lump sum of money, and that car's going to need repairs all the time. So how many times has my car been in the shop the past year? I held on to it too long.
R.I.P. Pearl.
I held on to the car too long instead of buying a new one, and the repairs add up. And maybe a couple hundred this month, 1,000 next month, and all of a sudden, all the money in repairs added up to more than that more expensive car, and then you need to buy a new one too soon.
And the repairs were costing more than what the car was worth, is the other thing. And so at a certain point, you have to look at it like, okay, how much money am I putting into this car? I might as well just buy a new one.
Exactly. So if you were to just buy the more expensive car, you wouldn't have all the repairs and it'll last longer. So in summary, being cheap is more expensive in all aspects of your life. You don't want to spend like a maniac. You want to be smart, but the cheapest option is not always the best. It's usually not the best option.
Frugal. We got to be frugal. And now we're getting into our real estate topic, where being cheap is really expensive.
Yeah, this is where it can cost you the most. Being cheap could cost you the most in real estate.
As we all know, your house is your largest asset. You do not want to cheap out or skimp on your home. So let's get into it. I want to start with renovations. When you are going to do like a renovation on your home or your building or whatever that looks like for you, when you're skimping out on construction, you are going to have constant repairs, maintenance issues, and just overall like poor quality workmanships. Like we were talking about the contractors before. Like you got to make sure you're hiring the right people. You got to make sure that, you know, you're getting the correct materials.
Yeah, like let's say you need new floors. One guy might say 10 grand and he's got excellent product, excellent stuff. The other guy says 6 and he's got flimsier, cheap equipment and stuff. You may say, oh, I'm going to save the 4 grand by getting the cheap guy. 5 years pass, his floors are all scratched up, water damage, whatever, and you need to spend it again. And if you would have just went with the more expensive option, the floors will last longer.
And that ultimately leads to having reduced property value, which is something that we do not want.
You get less for your home.
Yeah, and you're building equity. You want to make sure to maximize your equity. If you would have just upfront bought the nicer floors, you wouldn't be in this situation.
We say floors in this, but it really means any aspect of your
any
house,
materials,
inside or out.
any materials.
I just like that example, but it's anything you do. If you cheap out, it will come back to be expensive in the future.
And when you're going to purchase a home as a buyer, you don't want to skip inspections. That is going to be leading to very costly surprises later on. Unless you're an investor and buying something all cash and planning to gut the whole place and renovate, then you're fine.
Yeah, in that case, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but when you skip inspections, this leads to structural issues, mold, faulty wiring.
Yeah, there are going to be so many things you miss. I see it all the time because I run the numbers with clients. They may say, oh, this inspection's $700-800. Screw it, the house looks good. We want to save the money on that. But you may have missed something that's going to cost you $15-20 grand a year down the line that you could have caught up front. Okay, great. You saved $800. Now it's coming back to bite you because all these things need to be fixed.
Yeah.
Definitely don't be cheap with, the inspections and everything else at the house.
Yeah, and renovations. And I also want to bring up for sale by owners, our FSBO people who think that they can sell homes when they're not licensed to. And I say that because, hiring an agent is one of the smartest things you can do. Mentally, financially, as well. Because 1, we're unpaid therapists, and 2, we guide you throughout the whole process. When it comes to for sale by owners, typically they're going to make 5 to 10% less on their home sale because of they're not using an agent, because of the fact that agents can market their property well, they're going to negotiate, they're going to help you while you're under contract. And also 75% of for sale by owners also take a buyer's agent. So at that point, you're already paying for a commission.
Doesn't that mean they're only saving about 2% or so on the realtor? But then due to not having the marketing skills and the knowledge in the market, they're losing 5-10% on their value.
And this is where the mental health part comes into play, because then when you're under contract, you have to deal with so many headaches that you don't know much about, and you're not licensed to do so. So it's just mentally and financially is way smarter to use a real estate agent to sell your home.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic, I might as well say choosing the wrong lender. So some people are extremely cheap when it comes to their mortgage, and I just simply don't understand this. And I'm not just saying that because I've been in the industry for however many years. It's like, it's the biggest financial purchase of your life, and you're going to leave it in the hands of the cheapest offer, the cheap person says, I can do it for the cheapest, the biggest purchase. So there's a lot of problems that we have when we see people do this, because we'll get most lenders that are professional. We're all similar in rate and fees. We're all really there, a couple $100 or so off. But if some people find some online lender that they never speak to, it's some company overseas, there's no communication, there's no guidance, there's no support. You need to put an offer on a weekend, they're not there. You have a question, you're nervous, they don't answer it. There's hidden fees. There's just a lack of expertise with problems that can go wrong. They don't have the products. They can't waive your appraisal contingency. They can't guide you through the strongest offer. You're left in the complete dark for what, a couple $100?
They don't answer on the weekends.
Yeah, when your realtor needs a pre-approval, it's a competitive offer, you're not going to get that. So I've seen people so many times go try to save a couple $100 and then the loan doesn't close in time. There's no communication, the commitment, dates are missed. So being cheap with your lender and not choosing one who dedicates their life to the craft can really come back to hurt you as well.
And we'll wrap it up with this. If you're already a homeowner, don't neglect your home maintenance right now.
Yes,
so,
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a leaky roof, faulty plumbing, you want to take care of that right away, because those problems will become way more expensive later on.
They'll grow and they'll get worse. I like that. I didn't even think about that when you're putting this together. Yes, if you're a homeowner and there's little things going wrong, or if things in your house are outdated, you may say, oh, I don't want to spend $10,000, $15,000 on my kitchen. Like, I don't have that money. You'll actually gain that money back in the equity that you build by keeping it up to date. Because if you go to sell, you're either going to get a lot less money for it, you're going to have to update that anyway before you sell. So you might as well do it when you live there, right?
And as a homeowner, like, this shit happens. Like, let's just be for real for a second. There are going to be issues within the home. That is what you sign up for when you purchase a home. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes that's why people rent still. But at the end of the day, you have to take care of your home, because then, there's going to be small things that add up, and it's going to be way more expensive later on.
Exactly. So I think we drilled the point here. Being cheap is expensive.
Being cheap is very expensive.
Very expensive.
Mentally, physically, and financially.
In all aspects of your life, in business, in your life, your normal purchases, your vacations, your health.
Your largest assets of your home, in real estate.
Being cheap is the wrong way to go. And don't get me wrong, I'm someone who is very careful. I budget. I'm careful what I spend. But one thing that really leveled me up was not being cheap. I was one of those guys, cheapest price, lowest sticker price. When I started looking at the value of things and I started just getting the guts to spend money when I thought it would hurt, it always comes back to help later on.
Yeah. So let's make more of an effort to be frugal, spend our money and time wisely, and just think carefully about what you're purchasing.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Like and subscribe, download the episodes. It really helps us out. Leave us a 5-star rating. You know what to do. See you guys later. Bye.